Hi, folks. Thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be here. I'm here to talk about how we make the internet better together. So being heard is empowering, right? It's why we have arguments with our friends, family members, and loved ones. It's why I'm standing here. We like to be heard. And we like to be heard because we like to influence the world around us to make our lives more productive, more enjoyable, and more fulfilling. And if you take a look at some of the things we've been doing online lately, you can tell that we like to be seen and heard at scale. We want a lot of people to see what we see and think what we think, if possible. And this is just a smattering of companies that enable us to be heard these days. But back in the old days, we used to be heard by taking surveys. And government officials and academics and other folks would come to our homes with a clipboard and ask us what we thought. We'd be at the mall and someone would stop us and ask us what we bought. Now these days, you leave a Starbucks or a Walgreens and you get a link on the back of your receipt that says, hey, please take this survey. You can get $10 off your next purchase, right? And so we're always trying to find out what people are buying, what they're thinking, and why they're doing some of these behaviors. But since we buy so much online these days, we don't have to ask people what they bought. Instead, we get to track this automatically, which is really convenient for finding out very quickly what people have purchased. And it's much more efficient than asking people, hey, 6 months ago, do you remember buying a toothbrush, right? We can just look in the cookie and say, yeah, that's in fact what they bought. But unfortunately, cookies are just rough guesstimates as to who we are and what we want, right? Because it takes a look at all the sites we visited, what we've purchased, what we've clicked on, and it makes a sort of profile of who we are and puts us in these big buckets that knows what ads to serve us, what content to serve us on certain occasions. But the problem is that these things follow us around the internet and do all sorts of nefarious things when we're not paying attention. So at the end of the day, these things feel really creepy. Because you ever get an ad for something that you don't want, and you're like, who does my cookie think I am? Or worse, who was using my computer? And so we somehow get all these ads for things that we don't want. And part of the reason for that is because the cookies can't hear us groan, right? You get that ad for something, you're like, oh, your eyes are rolling. Cookie doesn't know that. Cookie just knows that you're on the site. So it's going to give you more ads for things that you don't want. But those groans are feedback. And the only way to give feedback is to say something. And meanwhile, billions of people are saying something to other people. They're giving feedback to people that they know. They're having conversations. They're having conversations with their patients, doctors, hospitals, insurance providers, having conversations with patients. Local governments and state governments are having conversations with their citizens about what they want for utilities, parks, and recreation. We're also having conversations with customers, small businesses, large businesses. Why did you buy this? What did you like about it? And these people are faithfully giving feedback to the brands that they know and love. And at the same time, a bunch of parents are having conversations with school principals and school boards and school districts about how to make schools better for their children. So you might think to yourself, well, how can surveys be doing so well and so poorly at the same time? And the reason for that is some people have relationships with their survey researchers. They're expecting to hear from these people, and so they're more than happy to give feedback. So how do we foster these kinds of relationships all over the web? Well, it's through reciprocity, because those parents know that answering questions about their child's school or their hospital or their doctors are going to enrich those experiences. Their child will learn more and learn more efficiently. Their healthcare will be administered in a better way. And so there's some quid pro quo. You get something out of this that you put into it. So if I help you improve what you're giving me, then we're all much better off, right? So how do we mimic reciprocity all over the web? Well, today, as you know, we sit through ads, either AdWords on the right-hand side or advertisements that play on the radio or before our YouTube videos. And as I mentioned, most of this is for stuff that we don't want. So this system seems a bit inefficient today. So what about YouTube, right? People go on YouTube and watch cats play the piano, right? And this is fantastic entertainment for tons of people. But what if YouTube wanted $10 a month for the privilege of watching cats play the piano? That might sound outrageous to you, right? A little less outrageous than sitting through a bunch of ads that you don't want, but nonetheless, paying YouTube monthly for something you may or may not do might sound a little tough to swallow. Well, what about dropping off a penny or two or even a quarter for some of the most popular videos, right? We could do that instead of paying in advance for our subscriptions. But even that sounds like, we've been accustomed to this internet that offers us entertainment for free, essentially, right? So paying every time I watch a video doesn't sound like a great idea. But what about a future where we could give our time instead of our money. So what if we could give $10 worth of answers? Now, I don't know how many questions $10 worth is today, but you could imagine it might be more enjoyable than sitting through ads you don't want, or paying a subscription every month, or on the phone with YouTube customer service arguing, I only saw 14 videos, I paid for 10, right? So in this scenario, you get to influence what you want by explicit consent, explicit answers, right? So that the videos we serve and the ads we show you are more tailored to you. This way, you have a choice, right? You can pay or give your time, and since time is money, whatever helps you get the most out of the internet, we should choose. But I think when you give people money, it's a proxy for what you think. When you give people your time, it's actually what you want. It's actually what you do. And to the extent that we can give our time, everybody wins, right? The businesses find their customers easier. People get ads for things that they actually want. And when we share all these data together, we can learn something about ourselves, which is why we engage in this process of being heard in the first place. Again, to influence our lives, to make them more productive, more enjoyable, and more fulfilling. So the goal here is to collectively amplify empowerment. Let me give you a problem that's happening today with how we've been giving feedback to our society, our businesses, and our colleagues through survey research. In the last 2 decades or so, we have called people, we have mailed them, we have emailed them, and over time, the response rates for these activities has been going down and looks to go down indefinitely. So what do we do with our beloved feedback mechanism when we ourselves don't want to partake in it anymore? Well, let's say we're trying to estimate what an entire population of people thinks, right? Let's say the population of those blue dots. I promise no math, but only pictures. So this population of blue dots is all of us. And if we want to know what we are thinking, we sample. And typically, you'll need about 1,500 people to estimate what all Americans think, right? But what if those 1,500 people are all the same kinds of people? Then we start to misrepresent what the population thinks. We want to be very careful to not collect opinions from a small group of systematically biased people. Well, fortunately, we all have phones, and most of us have internet as well. So the question is, can we go to a sample size of 1,500 to maybe 15,000 in a day, or an hour, or a minute? So long as those people aren't special on one side of that curve, that's a unique opportunity to collect feedback to improve the world around us. So our company, SurveyMonkey, decided to find out whether or not we had people in the tail end of the curve or a smattering of people everywhere. It turns out that people are where we would expect them to be, right? But there's a deeper question. Are they where they're supposed to be and thinking what we'd expect them to think given where they are? So we thought of a clever little test to figure this out, and that was to ask people who they might vote for. So every day, about 1 million people in the US see a page like this, and for 10 weeks before the election, we ask them, who are you going to vote for, right? And where are you, and how much education you have, and maybe another question or two. Explicit questions, explicit answers. We didn't derive anything from their cookies. We asked them. And it turns out when you ask people explicit questions, you get people where they're supposed to be, thinking what you would expect them to think given where they are. So again, explicit answering makes these maps possible when our polling data compares to election returns. But I think this whole process is extremely difficult with cookies because one little fudge on who we are in terms of our socioeconomic status, our education, our income, one little fudge turns that map a completely different color in different places, and we have no ability to tell what our society wants for a president, right? So nothing's free on the internet, right? YouTube videos, SurveyMonkey content, anything, anywhere, it costs money to host things on servers and pay employees and so forth. So how do we create an economy where we get the things that we want, but it sort of still feels like we have a free internet in the way that we do today? So you'll get the choice, hopefully in the future, to pay, to see some ads and take in some ads, or to answer some questions, where those three things have equal value to us, right? I value my money, I value my time, so why would I want to waste my time with ads and content that I don't want when I could give you some explicit answers that narrow the focus of the content served to me, that make the entire experience on the internet a much richer one? And when that happens, I think we will get the content that we want that helps us move the internet faster so it's not so cluttered. And at that moment, I think the internet has has the potential to be a more perfect version of itself. It was built for us to have individual efficacy in the things that we read and see and watch, but right now it's casting broad, wide nets and missing a bunch of people and turning a bunch of people off. And it's all in part because we let cookies and we let abstractions, we let proxies for who we are dictate what we get. So I'm imagining a future where we tell the internet what we want and it gives us exactly that back. Thank you.